Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles Sabansi, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty serious show for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want our full podcast, be sure to check it out. We have pinned in the comments section below. Let me get into this topic here. So we recently produced a show 2 days ago. We're not the only ones. A lot of people have talked about this. But we produced a show 2 days ago that was centered on some comments that Kevin Garnett made with Paul Pierce, where they were talking about LeBron and his son playing, and you know, like hypothetical scenario against each other. And Paul Pierce was like, I think he can get a bucket against LeBron. And KG like, no. He was like, his dad on that new juice, on that new Balco, right? And if you do some research, you will know what that is. He's referring to a PED, a performance enhancing drug. So once that information came out, what one would have expected was for somebody to talk about it. Because what I know about the sports media is they can find anything. They can find a needle in a haystack if they're looking for content. And that story of Kevin Garnett saying that was pretty well known. But for whatever reason, no one decided to touch on it. We did a show on it. A few other channels did shows on it. And I said at the end of the show that we produced, I said the following. I said that, listen, you will know that this story has some legs to it if the big media corporations totally ignore the story. Again, no one is saying to make any accusations about LeBron. They're saying talk about the story. And of course, all the big names absolutely avoided it. But I can 100% assure you that all of them were aware of it, with the exception of one person. And that person was Jason Whitlock. Yesterday was a very, very interesting day for me. So what happened? It was towards the evening on my end, and I see something pop up on my YouTube homepage, and it's featuring Jason Whitlock. And I see the title, "The LeBron James steroid scandal should be sports' biggest story, and end the Jordan debate." And it was scheduled, and I was like, what? So I said, okay, I definitely have to see this show. So I tune in. As I tune in, the show commences. Jason Whitlock begins to give the rundown of things we should expect during that show. And while he's talking, he says something that absolutely floors me, which is, and we're also going to be bringing Scap Attack into the show. And I'm like, Scap, what? Really? Now, Scap Attack is a creator that I believe is a Kobe guy. I believe he's a Brady guy. I believe he's a Jordan guy. He's not a fan of LeBron. And we've shared his content periodically on our channel for two reasons. Number one, I think his content is absolutely hilarious. The way he does, where he sat on and he landed on his ass. Like, it was just hilarious. And number two, I think a lot of it is informative and is a different voice out there, because usually you have a lot of guys in the media space twerking it up, knocking drinks all over the place, slapping each other with honey all over the place as they twerk it up, right? So it was a bit refreshing, and he does some very good content. So to see him on Jason Whitlock's show, I was like, damn, well, this is the show right here. And I tuned in and I saw him. I finally got a chance to see him. But when it came time for Jason Whitlock to unpack this story, not only did he go off on sports media for their blatant silence, he also went at LeBron's story. And I want to play we want to play what some of Jason Whitlock had to say. I want you guys to sit back, get your popcorn. It's going to be a long show. But I want you guys to listen to everything that he has to say here, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
LeBron James is in some big trouble. Big trouble. He doesn't see it yet. His handlers are trying to put out fires. But eventually, LeBron James, his handlers, the LeBron groupies are going to have to deal with what Kevin Garnett did to LeBron James. Kevin Garnett, in a podcast interview, I think we got the clip, right? Don't we got KG? Yeah. Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce speculating about LeBron James using steroids. Let's play the clip.
Bronny get a bucket on Bron right now?
Yeah, he can get a bucket on Bron right now.
Nope.
Yeah, he can get a bucket.
No way. Nope.
Nah, he can get a bucket on his
Bron
dad right
averaging
now.
25.
No, I didn't say he ain't. I don't care what he's doing, but he ain't sliding, playing at that all defensive level.
25. Nah. Lord, 25. He dunking? He's still dunking the ball with.
I'm saying that Bronny can get a bucket on Bron.
I'm saying he can't. One rollout, get a bucket.
3 dribbles?
No way. I'm
he
talking about.
can get a bucket on him.
No.
Man, come on. That little dude explosive, bro.
He is, but you seen his dad? His dad on that balcony.
but
he on that new
he
juice.
ain't
That
sliding like he used to.
Man, bro.
His dad is on that balco. He's on that new juice. There is a lot to unpack here. I want to do it carefully. I want to do it properly. It's going to take me a little time. Before I get rolling, I'm going to bring in a guy, a YouTube social media influencer named Jay Skapanak. Jay has been putting in great video work going after LeBron James. Jay is one of these people that I believe is a Kobe Bryant supporter. And again, if you're following things closely, the NBA conversation, there's a lot of these homemade influencers who push out a lot of content, either supporting Michael Jordan and blasting LeBron James or supporting Kobe Bryant and blasting LeBron James. And so Kevin Garnett has given them the excuse and the ammo they need to play the card they've been holding back this entire time, that many people in the sports world have been speculating about privately for a long time, that LeBron James is no different from Lance Armstrong, no different from Barry Bonds, no different from Mark Aguirre, Sammy Sosa, no different than any of the rest of these athletes that have been out chasing immortality, fame, and great wealth by any means necessary. The steroid card, the juice card, has been played on LeBron James. The media is trying to ignore it. We don't ignore anything over here at Fearless. What people are not going to tolerate, what other athletes are not going to tolerate, is someone being placed on a pedestal when the athletes are aware of, like, hey man, I'm not sure if he deserves this pedestal. And, this pedestal he's placed it on, hey, it works for this media personality, that media personality, and Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith and TNT and the guys over at ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, and they all got to participate in it because their networks are tied into the NBA and are in business relationships with the NBA, that the LeBron James myth as the greatest player of all time, and that debate and discussion, that works for TNT, that works for ESPN, that works for Skip Bayless and Fox Sports. But those athletes that have started their own podcast, they have independent wealth, they have FU money, they got more wiggle room and more freedom. And whether LeBron James is seen as the greatest of all time or not doesn't mean anything to them. And so when you think about who is the greatest player who hates LeBron James and has a competition with LeBron James, it's Paul Pierce. Who is Kevin Garnett's longtime teammate and clearly close friend who they do some podcast work together with? Paul Pierce. So Paul Pierce can't take this Balco shot, but Kevin Garnett can. And so Kevin Garnett did. And a lot of former players all grew up loving and worshiping Michael Jordan. A lot of former players know it's ridiculous to try to put LeBron on the same level as Michael Jordan. A lot of former players and current players have placed Kobe Bryant on a pedestal. Kobe Bryant is like Tupac and Jimi Hendrix and Amy Winehouse. When a great star dies early or young, their star only elevates. And so in death, Kobe has become an even bigger idol. And many players have far more respect for Kobe Bryant, just as a man, as a person, than LeBron James. And just as a skilled player, LeBron James is breaking all of these records and in this position, not because of his great skill, because of his physical blessings that many of them believe have been enhanced through chemical blessings as well. But to some degree, some of this is just personal taste. Some of it is just like, man, I love Michael Jordan. Some of it is, I love Kobe Bryant. But there's a bit of it that is like, I really don't like LeBron James. He thinks he's above all of us. The same things that irritate me about LeBron James irritate many of these players. And this whole GOAT conversation that LeBron has been engaging in and the whole universe has been debating, the whole NBA basketball world has been debating for 15 years. Some of these former players are going to call BS on it, and they're going to be backed up by people like Scap Attack and others. It's like, nah, LeBron ain't on Michael's level, and he's not on Kobe's level either. And then at some point, some old guys like me are going to jump out and say, I don't really think he's on Magic Johnson's level.
So you heard some of the arguments that he put forth there. I think that Jason made a lot of strong points, but there was a particular part in his show where he addressed a report that had come out about an investigation that took place in Miami. And some of the people that were named in this report include some close friends of LeBron James and even his wife. But somehow he was able to escape and kind of escape through and kind of come out ungarnished, after coming out of that fire. And he brought up a good point, and he made a very, very good analogy that we want to play for you guys. And I want you guys to listen to it in its entirety, because that's one of the best analogies I've ever heard. And I think it perfectly describes the lunacy surrounding this story. So take a listen to what Jason Whitlock had to say here quickly.
And Ernest Randy Mims, a longtime friend and business manager of LeBron James. While reporting this story, ESPN was told by federal authorities that they found nothing to suggest that Alexander, who has trained LeBron James, or Mims, provided any PEDs to any athletes. But because both had a relationship with LeBron James, their involvement in the investigation caused investigators to look at whether James might have been involved in any activity related to PEDs. And they concluded that he was not. Quote, there was never any indication that LeBron James did anything wrong, the lead DEA investigator said. How Mims and Alexander inadvertently brought their friend's name into federal documents is a tale almost as wild as the entire South Florida investigative saga. So I'm just, you read this ESPN story from a year, it's September of 2023. You read this story, and it to me, what it sounds like is Jason Whitlock was seated in the living room. And in his kitchen was his brother and best friend. And there was McDonald's spread out all over the kitchen. There was filet of fish sandwiches, there was Big Macs, there were double cheeseburgers, there were French fries, there was even a leftover McRib sandwich. And investigators came into my house, saw me seated in the living room, saw my brother and one of my best friends seated in the kitchen, surrounded by all of this McDonald's. And the investigators came and said, there's no proof that Jason Whitlock ate any of this McDonald's. And I want you to keep in mind, let's say Todd Fennell was my friend sitting with my brother. Todd probably weighs 170 pounds. My brother was seated in the kitchen as well. Let's say my brother weighs, I think, 230, 240 pounds. McDonald's everywhere. There's a 170-pound guy sitting at the kitchen, a 230-pound guy sitting in the kitchen, and then there's a 300-pound guy sitting in the living room, and all kinds of McDonald's have been eaten. But none of the investigators suspected the guy sitting in the living room of eating any McDonald's. So Randy Mims, who I've met, he don't look nothing like LeBron James. He ain't all cut up. He don't look like he just stepped out of the weight room in some fitness magazine. But he's connected to biogenesis and steroids. David Alexander, the personal trainer, who's in good shape, but he don't look like LeBron. He's a personal trainer connected to steroids, but Randy Mims, David Alexander, yeah, they got some kind of loose connection. But that other guy that looks like a Greek god at age 40 and 41, he got nothing to do with steroids.
So you heard what he had to say. Now let me get into the meat and potatoes of this. He mentioned something about more players respect Kobe as a person, as a man. I 100% agree with that. I think Kobe was more of a man's man. I think Kobe was more relatable because you saw, his flaws and his positives. You saw that. Kobe's more genuine because you could tell that he was being himself to a lot of like almost everyone I know that I've heard talk about Kobe said he's an a-hole. Everyone, which means that Kobe kept it the same way with pretty much everybody. I think a lot of the players also respect Kobe's game. I think a lot of these guys respect Michael Jordan's game. Obviously, the majority of them probably don't know Jordan or have a relationship with him. But I think they have a deep reverence for Kobe Bryant. Not only his former contemporaries, but modern players and guys like the Paul George, guys of that era. A lot of them look up to Kobe Bryant. In the case of LeBron, why is this important? The reason that this scandal is important is because LeBron's, one of his arguments that his fans like to make is that, well, look how well he's playing at this advanced age. Look how well he's playing. Look at the longevity. Look at the longevity. Look at the longevity. Well, if people now begin to discover that you had an unfair advantage, then what does that say about the longevity? Because what has happened is LeBron fans understand that, and some people in the media understand that they can't win the argument with Jordan head up. They can't do it. You can't. It's a joke when you try to compare them peak for peak. It's actually a joke. So what they then decided to do was move to something else, which is the longevity. Look how well he's playing at this age and all blah, 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 blah. But then if we later find out that the reason he was able to play to this advanced age was because he was taking stuff to give him an edge that other players didn't have, then that's absolutely going to be a knock on him. To me, the biggest takeaway from all of this and what he said was, no one is going to touch this story. And he brings up a good point that, listen, if this story were to come out, it would be damaging for the league. I think we can all agree with this. It would be bad because we have the face of the NBA for probably the last, 10 years or whatever. For a story like this to come out, it will be damaging. Very, very, very damaging. And there have been many allegations levied at LeBron that he has not directly responded to. He's responded to a lot of frivolous things on the internet, but he's never responded to these guys. He's never tried to sue these guys. And I think maybe the reason he doesn't want to do that is because to the points that Jason Whitlock alluded to, if he brings attention to it, then a lot of people are going to be like, well, what's going on here? It's like you may be sitting outside at a coffee shop and then you see like a bunch of people. You can have two people in the corner arguing. But then the minute a crowd comes around, you'll be like, oh, wait, what's happening? And that's exactly what will happen. It will begin to draw attention to the story. And I think that's what they want to avoid. You see, some people are saying, well, Kevin Garnett was joking. Well, how do you know? Number one. Number two, who would make such a joke like that? That's basically insinuating that this person is taking the juice or whatever it is. Who would make such a flippant joke like that? Who? And number one, if he is joking, then how do you explain all of these various investigations? what a lot of these people will say, well, is the proof. There are a lot of things that you don't need proof for, but you know what's happening. To me, I'm not surprised that big media is not talking about it, but it just further exposes what's really going on here. That's what it does. I was just very surprised, however, to see Jason Whitlock tackle this story because it's a big one, but unfortunately, no one wants to talk about it. So, but I want to know from you guys, what do you think about Jason Whitlock's comments? What do you think about today's show? Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comments, and we catch you on the next show. Peace.